So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. 5 reasons why Apple is crushing the competition. Links to all the resources where I discovered some of this information will be linked down below in the description. But 8 out of 10 iPhones, according to 9 to 5 Mac, were sold in Q2 of 2018. That is staggering. That means 8 out of every 10 smartphones sold was an iPhone, led by the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, probably due to its lower price point. Now, Android actually had a decline in Q2 by about 4 or so percent, and that's probably due to, Apple bringing out cheaper varieties and expanding their lineup. We're referring to the US market here. And the Android has a larger variety of smartphones, but since Apple now has all the way down to an iPhone SE, you can get prepaid for about $130 all the way up to the $1,000 iPhone. It's making it harder here in the US for Android phone makers to compete. Some facts around the iPhone sales in Q2. Now let me explain the first reason why I think Apple continues to dominate here in 2018. So reason number 1 is that people prefer iOS to the Android software. Now there's a misconception that Android fails more significantly than iPhone. The iPhone 6 has a failure rate of 26% according to my research, and that's higher than a lot of Android phones. Android fails at about a 14% rate versus iOS at about a 12.5% rate. So it definitely does fail a little bit less, but not too much. It's pretty much equal in that regard. And Android has a lot more fragmentation and a lot more devices. But that's my first reason why I think Apple is continuing to dominate, is simply because people like iOS. They like that straightforward experience and they don't really want to customize. And, there's a common belief amongst the masses that, Android is just too hard to use, too complex to use. So that's my first reason why Apple is crushing it still here in 2018. So the next reason is a pretty simple one, guys. Familiarity. So basically, you use an iPhone way back, you use another iPhone, you upgrade to another iPhone. It's just familiar. You just want to upgrade to something you know how to use. We're creatures of habit. And I think this is a huge reason why, the iPhone continues to dominate, because people just tend to prefer to stick with what they know. And a lot of iOS users, once they get in that ecosystem, they just don't want to leave. So this is my second reason why Apple continues to crush it and sell 8 out of 10 smartphones that are sold, led by the 8 and 8 Plus. So my third reason is that they like that Apple continues to provide software on older iPhones, even if said software doesn't work quite as well on that older edition. The fact that you continuously get updates, even if your device is 3, 4, or 5 years old, is a reason that makes the iPhone feel like a safer choice for many people. So this is my third reason why I think Apple continues to crush it here. People just want that, software update when it comes out, and everyone seems to get it around the same time if you're using an iPhone device. So this is the third reason why Apple continues to crush it in 2018. Okay, so the fourth reason is the ecosystem. The iPad, the Mac, the iPhone, the iPod, all of these freaking products just work together, and they work together very well. So, that's a really huge selling point, and probably one reason why Apple continues to crush the competition. Samsung has like their Notes app that goes on the desktop. They got Samsung Keys, they got the Samsung Decks. They got a few items here and there, but it doesn't sync quite as well as everything with the Apple experience does. And at number 5 is more of my own personal reason, and I put the glasses on for this one, and that's because I believe that people are wired for connection. And why do I say this? You're like, well, of course, but why do you say wired for connection? What do you mean? Well, what I mean here is that when you see everybody around you using an iPhone, again, I'm referring to the US, in the US market, everywhere you go, you see iPhones. Subconsciously, the younger crowd, people are going to think that's what the social group does. People are social. Check out this book by Matthew Lieberman called Social: Why We Are Wired to Connect, or something like that. I'll leave a link down below. You can check that book out on Amazon. But it talks about how we're hardwired to just connect. And when you have a smartphone that every human being is using and everybody's seeing in the public, people are just going to think that's the way to go. So that's my 5th reason why I think Apple continues to crush the competition. You don't feel like you're fitting in with the group if you're using, Samsung. I mean, I don't really care because I'm not trying to fit in, but a lot of people out there want to have the same thing everybody is using. And number 6, a bonus for Apple is having a retail presence, a strong one in the US, located in many of the most wealthy, abundant, and beautiful areas around big cities, major metropolitan areas in the US. This is a strong reason why Apple can continue to sell much more than its competition here in the US.
Well, this is where the line starts, guys, right here. It starts right here, and you get into the Apple Store all the way down there. And it's been open for about an hour still.
You don't see Samsung stores basically anywhere. Microsoft has a retail presence, but they're not really selling phones, so they're not really relevant anymore in that regard. In terms of computers, yes, but not so much in terms of that. Also, in that store, the customer service is pretty much unbeatable, as we know, when you can go in there and they'll just fix your product. You know, you do have to wait a little while, a few hours sometimes, but you can still go in there, and most of the times they can get your product up and running if there's an issue with it. So that's basically it. That's 5 reasons why Apple is crushing the competition right now. And when I say crushing, I mean crushing, at least here in the US. 8 out of 10 smartphones sold in Q2 was an iPhone. That means the chances of you asking somebody on the street, did they buy an iPhone or are they planning to buy an iPhone? It's extremely high. You have like an 80% chance of them saying yes. So I have 2 questions for you to leave down below in the comments. Number 1, are you buying an iPhone or planning to buy an iPhone this fall, or you're currently looking for one? And number 2, how long do you think Apple can continue this iPhone dominance? Do you think they're just gonna stay on top and they're just gonna continue crushing the competition? Or do you think the competition is catching up? Or what do you think about that? So that's number 2. If you found this video entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click that like button for me. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more tech videos like this. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the next episode, and peace.